Welcome back to the People of Penn State podcast. I'm Katie Farnan from the Penn State Alumni Association. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Victoria Heasley, who graduated in 2014 from the Schreyer Honors College with a degree in Biomedical Engineering, in 2018 with her MD from the College of Medicine. She is an assistant professor in the Department of Sports Medicine and Orthopaedics, Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, and Biomedical Engineering at the University of Cincinnati. She also operates an adaptive sports clinic that provides more comprehensive, multidisciplinary care for patients and athletes with disabilities. Victoria, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, that's a mouthful for you to say.
A lot of words, but we made it.
You got it.
So let's start with Penn State. So you chose Penn State not once, but twice. Tell us why.
100% chose them, and I would definitely choose them again. I was definitely in a Penn State family my entire life. My dad's an alum and grew up going to Penn State and going to football games and visiting campus, for other sporting events or just to visit. And I think I remember when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I'm going to go somewhere else because I grew up at Penn State. And then all the visits to all my other schools just did not feel the same. And I just felt at home at Penn State. And once I got into the Schreyer Honors College, the decision was made, and I was just super excited to go there because it was truly a little bit of smaller community feeling, but at obviously a huge university and having all the benefits from a big school like that. So that's why I chose for undergrad. And then medical school, I was just also very, very, very fortunate to kind of be able to tour the medical school campus early on, just because I was already a Penn State student, and I was able to be accepted there actually as an early acceptance. So I found out I got into medical school at the end of my sophomore year of college, and obviously finished my degree in the 4 years at Penn State, and then went to med school, and also extremely happy that is where I went. Someone once described the Penn State College of Medicine as like the Disney World of medical schools, because everyone's really friendly, very nice, and very collegial and very collaborative atmosphere amongst the students and the professors, and I would 100% agree with that. So glad that's where that all led me.
Perfect choice. We're a little biased, but
obviously.
We're glad you made that decision. So tell us about your experience for both undergrad and med school. What was it like for you?
Undergrad was just incredible because of all the opportunities that Penn State really had. And I know it's like everyone probably says this, but the fact that Penn State's so large, but you kind of find your people and you find your little niche, and you find your groups and activities that you get involved in, whether, it's sports or clubs or within the college. And I definitely found my home, I would say, in the College of Engineering, as well as the Schreyer Honors College, and just getting involved in some of the student organizations there was really impactful. I think it helped me realize that I can, give back to the campus even while I'm on campus. And it's obviously where I met a lot of my friends and kind of had that volunteering as well. And I don't know, I still look back fondly on that from the undergrad standpoint. It was obviously a lot of work, a lot of hard work. And my best friend and I from undergrad, we're still best friends, and we still reminisce of, late night study sessions and snacks from downtown and how we were powering through to study all the time. And, I wouldn't change any of that at all.
So what about your medical career and your medical journey? Can you walk us through, after med school, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So at med school, obviously it's 4 years, and we, as you go through the first 2 years of med school, you're kind of just doing a lot of the coursework and a lot of preclinical type skills. And then your third and fourth year of med school, you kind of figure out what specialty you want. And so I actually kind of found out a little bit late, towards the middle of my third year, that I wanted to do a specialty called Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. And that's the specialty that really works with people with injuries, anywhere ranging from an ACL injury that you might see on a sports sideline, like an acute injury, all the way up to someone who might have a stroke or a spinal cord injury, and really helping them progress and figure out how to live their new life, or how to have an abundant and quality of life afterwards. And so I found that in med school, and then applied for residency, and then it's the match process. And for those of you, I'm sure most people obviously have heard of this, but you literally open an envelope and that's where you're moving. And my husband and I couples matched, and we were fortunate to be able to be matched together in the same city. And so that envelope that we opened took us to the University of Cincinnati, which obviously also won over our hearts because we are actually still there and after training. So then I did residency at the University of Cincinnati, and then chose to do a fellowship in sports medicine also at the University of Cincinnati. And then they hired me and kept me, and so I'm still there.
It's a great story. It's always good when you can just stay in one place, right? Like,
I know. I always laugh. I'm like, they kept me, so I guess they won me over and I won them over, so it works out.
Mutual connection. We love to hear.
Exactly.
So you work in adaptive sports medicine. Can you tell us about that, what that is, and what your day looks like?
To answer the last part, my day, unfortunately, every day is different, which is like super fun. But yes, so adaptive sports medicine is an amazing field. It's really the combination of sports medicine. I think a lot of people have seen sports medicine physicians, whether it's on the sideline at a football game at high school, or you see them run out maybe on a college basketball court or the professional level. There's always physicians there covering those games. So I do that. But the adaptive sport, so you use that background knowledge and use that experience, and then you're actually taking care of the athletes with a lot of times physical disabilities. And so most people, I'm sure, have seen like the Paralympics. So that's the patient population. That's like my sub specialty, I would say. And you really like applying the knowledge from my residency training in physical medicine rehabilitation plus sports medicine really equips me to take care of that patient population, because there's a whole different kind of medical side of things and understanding different aspects maybe of their body and how their body works, and applying that to sports medicine can be really fun and challenging, which I like, because you're kind of problem solving on the go and kind of figuring things out as you go, which I really like. But the way that I actually kind of got into that whole field was because I was kind of combining my engineering background, and my dream was to always use engineering plus the clinical side of things, and to kind of bridge that gap between engineers work with physicians all the time to build devices and equipment, and physicians work with engineers, but they don't really speak that language and they don't speak the same language. And so I wanted to be both. And kind of how I found myself into adaptive sports was I was working and trying to figure out what type of doctor I wanted to be able to use that engineering. And I luckily found PM&R, where I was realizing that I could help build adaptive equipment for people. And that led to really actually one of my first projects at Penn State Medical School. I got to work again with the Penn State engineering students and working on a device for someone who wanted to snowboard again. And he was a triple amputee, and he needed an assistive device to be able to snowboard and go out west and enjoy his sport again. And that is kind of where everything started for me, is at Penn State, and being able to, use the clinical side of things, but then using the engineering to build adaptive sports equipment. And luckily, all of those things came together. and the combination of me wanting to build adaptive equipment, which led to adaptive sports equipment, which then led me to really love the field of sports medicine. And then that obviously played into adaptive sports medicine as well.
So that sounds like a really cool project. What are some other projects that you had that combined the engineering with the medical side, and what were you able to create for people?
Yeah, the one at Penn State was truly we worked on it for like 2 years for adaptive snowboarding. And then luckily now in my, after Penn State, in my like post and residency and fellowship training, and then actually as my job now, I'm a part of my time, I'm an engineering professor at UC. And so I get to help the students there work on adaptive sports equipment. And some of the favorite ones have been actually adaptive skiing, so pivoted from snowboard to skiing, but also even different equipment for someone who wanted to golf again and didn't really have a lot of function on their left side, and we needed to help them grip the club so they could actually swing the club and go play with their friends and family again. And then maybe a little bit more a simpler project, but then all the way up to more complicated project of making something adjustable for a couple of our athletes who want to do something called sled hockey. So if you are seated in a sled, you can play hockey, and we need different equipment that's really customized and can, change from one person to the next. And so working on an adjustable sled has also been really cool. So that's more of like a, complicated project, but also super rewarding and working with the students. And it's one of my favorite things is getting to see the students and myself and get to give this equipment to one of our athletes and them actually get to use it and be like, I never thought I could do this before. And now I have this piece of equipment and I get to do my sport. And so that's one of my favorite things to do.
What is that process like from, somebody saying, this is what I want to be able to do? How can we get to the end point? What does it look like from beginning to end?
It definitely depends. Oftentimes it starts with just a conversation. I'm in a unique situation where I might meet the athlete as a patient, or I might meet them out in the community during one of maybe, for example, one of our adaptive sports events. And it normally is just a conversation or just overhearing, to be honest. And like maybe someone will overhear someone be like, hey, I really want to be able to, go down the ski slope, or I want to be able to play wheelchair basketball, but this, piece of equipment doesn't work for me. And whether, someone overhears and then they come get me or, I meet them as a patient or something like that, I don't like to be told no. And obviously no one wants to be told no. And so I think really my mindset is like, well, we've got to figure out a way to make this possible for this person. And so from that standpoint, normally I think sometimes we can just do really quick modifications to a piece of equipment. So for example, if someone wants to try wheelchair basketball, we can just, literally use duct tape, use equipment that we have, everyday equipment, and try to make some modifications just so someone could try the sport and make some quick fixes. And that's obviously a very simple process. But then, the more complicated processes, we will actually meet with myself and normally one of our physical therapists. We can also meet with some of my engineering students or even professional engineers to really talk about what they need built. And if it needs to be a total customized from, the ground up equipment build, or does it just need to be in a modification to an equipment piece that already exists? And then we can go from there of what level project this is. If this is going to be, multiple month project, is going to be someone can do it in a couple of days. It really just depends on kind of the complexity of it, of who's going to build or modify, and if, testing and what we need to do. So it can be a completely varied decision, which is also fun.
It's very rewarding work that you do. I can imagine the emotion that comes with seeing people being able to do these things that they never thought they'd be able to do. But as go ahead.
No, it's truly my favorite. And I think that's what I get so excited about is being able to see because I understand the clinical, right, medical side. And then I also get to see the engineering and creative and building and designing side. But the most rewarding is seeing their face light up and they get to do something. Sure.
So as a professor, I'm sure that you have that feeling too with your students, seeing them take the same interest in what you're doing. How does that feel?
I also love that. I think it's also really interesting because it's a different experience, I think, for a lot of the students at the undergrad level to actually meet a patient or meet a very specific athlete, or kind of get into the clinical space. And from that standpoint, literally getting to work with the person they're designing a piece of equipment for, and really having that user-centered approach and design and that connection. I think, anything with that human connection, you have that story and you really, I think, get almost even more motivated because it's like, hey, I met this person and they really need this device that I'm designing and making in order to compete better, or to make the team, or to, go do mountain biking with their family. And I need to help make this, adaptive mountain bike better for them. And so I think it really just gives that human factor. And I love seeing those connections grow, and they often get so close with the people they're designing equipment for. And, again, I think it's just very exciting to see it all come together and get to witness that.
Full circle moment.
It really is. Yes, it really is. And I oftentimes will have, students come out to some of the events and they get to see their products, even after the fact, after they've graduated. And so I really like that part too.
So you created a nonprofit, the Bridge Adaptive Sports. How did that come about? And what do you do with it now?
Yes. So I kind of, knew after leaving med school and going to residency that I was, obviously really passionate about adaptive sports. And I was out in Cincinnati, obviously for residency. I didn't really know anyone. And I just started kind of meeting people, and I was realizing there's a lot of people who were interested in adaptive sports, already doing adaptive sports in maybe a different capacity. And I realized that we were all kind of doing things. We all had the same interests, maybe a little different interests. And I just was like, this is silly. We should all just combine forces and we should just work together, because I think we'll have a much better success. More brains are better than one. And so we all are starting to meet. And so, I'm one of the co-founders of the Bridge. And then COVID hit. So we had so many virtual meetings. We, obviously from the medical standpoint, we were all still working clinically. However, we had nothing else to do outside of work. And so we were really fortunate from that standpoint. We were able to meet virtually a lot and get a lot of the nonprofit paperwork done, and really getting our bylaws and our structure and a lot of brainstorming sessions together, virtually. But then it really came from that there's about 5 of us who are the co-founders to build what the Bridge is. And so what we've come over the last 5 years is we've really become this big umbrella organization in the Cincinnati tri-state area, where we are the adaptive sports organization, that we run a lot of our own programming for adaptive sports, but then we also partner with some other adaptive sports teams in the area. And we just want to, really, we're called the Bridge on purpose because we want to bridge the gap, right? We want to be able to get people involved, and we want to, if they want to play wheelchair basketball, we get them connected to the team that's there. If they want to do rock climbing, we developed our own adaptive rock climbing program. And, if people say, hey, I want to be able to do hand cycling in a marathon, we make that happen. And now we have the hand cycling division in our Cincinnati Flying Pig Marathon, for example. And so again, I think we've all really taken that motto, but of we don't want to be told no. And one of our actual motto is that it doesn't have to be easy; it just has to be possible. And we truly just want to get people out and doing whatever sport, whatever recreation they want, and it's my favorite thing.
So you developed it in COVID. How long has it been completely functional, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, this is our 5th year.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's super exciting.
You can see a lot of fun things, I bet. A lot of progress happening.
Yes, it's, I think a lot of growth, a lot of growth, and it's so much learning, because obviously it wasn't my education, right? It wasn't my background. I'm not a business person or major, or never been in the nonprofit sphere. Never did I predict that I would start a nonprofit, but here we are. And so luckily we've just been so fortunate to have a great, myself and our team, and have been having wonderful mentors as well along the way to really teach us, because all of us were clinical from this, all the founders are clinical. And so we're like, oh, we need help. This was even like pre-ChatGPT, when I was like making all the documents, and I did a lot of reading and legal reading, and I was like, this is crazy. But I'm, happy to see where it's come. But then we have a lot of exciting things, I think, on the horizon, of just more programming and a lot more equipment that we have, and hopefully space in the future. And can't wait to see where it keeps going.
So this weekend, by the time this is posted, this will have already passed, but this weekend, Victoria is being honored with an Alumni Achievement Award, and that is the Alumni Association's award for alums who are 35 and under, who are just excelling in what they do. What did you feel when you found out that you were going to be winning this award?
I was honestly in complete shock, but also I thought it was like a joke, because I wasn't expecting this, right? I had never even thought that I would be like someone that would win this type of award. And I remember emailing, and then I called my dad, and I was like, what is this? I was like, did you do something? Because I didn't believe it. I think, honestly, I'm normally a behind the scenes type of person, I would say. And so I was extremely humbled and honored to get the award. And I think it also was extremely rewarding, I guess, to just be even recognized for what work I've been doing. And I think, in the day-to-day, right, it's a lot, everyone's like working hard and trying to accomplish things and, just trying to do right. And, like by my community and the patients that I see. And I didn't even know I was on the radar, I think, of what I was doing. So I think just still in shock. Like you said, it's happening this weekend and I'm still, I think, a little bit in shock. It might hit me when I'm actually in state college, I think.
Well, it is always a very exciting weekend, and all of the winners are always very impressive. So here is the hint to the listeners that Penn State's always watching. We know what you're doing. We're keeping up with you.
I know. I was like, geez, I guess they are watching.
We always are. We are always looking for what our alums are doing, and it's incredible to see the winners and to hear what they're doing in the real world. It's always a very exciting experience, an exciting weekend. So you should be very excited.
Excited, nervous, but excited.
It'll be great.
I think it's like, I think obviously when you become a Penn Stater and you go there for any, part of the education, I just feel like obviously Penn State just becomes a part of you, right? And the kind of the values and the core of Penn State are also you. And so it's exciting to also see like how that can translate throughout the country, right? Because I'm obviously not in Pennsylvania anymore, but I hope that I'm still, spreading the Penn State word and the Penn State honor and mission. So
Penn State is a personality trait, I've decided.
There we go.
It becomes a part of you.
That's extremely valid.
So what are you most excited about when you return to campus this weekend?
I'm very lucky that I get to come for like Penn State games for a football game. My friend and I and my family, we at least go like once a year, but I haven't actually been able to like walk around campus. And I know there's like a ton of new buildings. It makes me sound old. But even just like actually seeing campus and like walking around will be really nice because I haven't been able to explore as much, even downtown, like some of the shops and food are definitely on the list. I think grilled stickies, we'll be getting a stop at McClanahan's and definitely ice cream. It's a creamery ice cream.
So before we got on, we were talking about your busy schedule. What are some of the academic stops you'll be making as well?
Yeah, I'm going to be able to stop at Schreyer Honors College to meet some of the staff and some of the students. And I think there's definitely food involved for that. And then I was also a member of the Presidential Leadership Academy while I was at Penn State. And so I'm going to get to meet some of the current students in the PLA now. And so I'm excited from that standpoint. And not exactly academic, but I'm going to go meet the adaptive sports program and their staff here at Penn State. So I'm also, anytime I get to talk about adaptive sports is amazing. So I'm excited to see what's going on at Penn State from that standpoint. And then hopefully we'll be able to compete against Penn State's adaptive sports at some point with some of my own teams.
We will not have you choose a side in that.
I won't. Yeah, I really won't. I'll just wear like navy because
Perfect.
The bridge is navy. And so if I can just wear, navy, it's I don't have to choose.
There you go. We won't tell.
Exactly. I'm just standing there in solid navy. That's why.
All right. So we like to finish things with a lightning round, some Penn State themed questions, which is perfect timing before you come back this weekend. I feel like it'll help you prepare for your time back on campus. So let's start with your favorite creamery flavor.
It might be a tie.
Okay.
Okay. I really love cookie dough, but the one tie, this might be a little abnormal one, but apple cobbler crunch. I think they only have it in the fall, but I think I ate way too much of it in undergrad. And I remember like a really hard day, a study day, my friend and I literally got an entire like a half gallon. We got a half gallon and we were rewarding ourselves for studying and eating it. And I didn't overdose on it. I still love it. And it's a tie between those two.
I think that's a really great reward and you could do it. So you should.
We did. And it was like, oh shoot, it's melting. We got to eat more.
Yeah, exactly. There's no room in those mini fridges.
Exactly. Oh shoot, we got to eat more of this.
Exactly. Darn.
Exactly.
Your favorite Penn State sport? Which sport are you going to be getting tickets for first?
I think I do say that obviously I get to come to a football game at least once a year, and that's just fun because it's a big family tradition. But I'd say one of my favorite sports is actually Penn State swimming and diving because my best friend was on the team. And so I got to go to a lot of their competitions and their meets. And I still really still has a special place in my heart for sure.
You saw it from the inside, so.
I did. I mean, obviously I'm not a D1. I was not a D1 athlete, but I was best friends with one. And so I got to go to a lot of the meets and cheer them on. And so definitely swim and dive.
Your favorite class and or professor during your time at Penn State, undergrad or med school, or both? You can share both.
Oh, geez. Oh no. I don't remember necessarily. I don't think we had like one professor per se, but in like biomedical engineering, we do our capstone class, and that's, at the end of your senior year. And so I really liked that because it's kind of like the culmination of everything. And I got to work with 2 of my classmates on a project, and I think really like applying like what you have learned and like all these classes and research and everything, and working together on that project. It is like very meaningful. Like, at the end of, you have this like thing that you actually made and designed and tested. So I think that was definitely my favorite class in undergrad. And med school, oh, I don't know. The classes all blur together. I just remember studying all the time. So I don't even know. I guess I have to say I did really like musculoskeletal like block, which makes sense because obviously I'm a sports medicine doctor. So I guess I should have thought about that at the time that I liked that the most. And here we are now. So.
Another full circle moment.
It didn't click. It did not click when I was in med school that, hey, I really like this. I should probably go into this. But now full circle.
You were studying, so it's fine.
Yeah.
You were a little bit busy.
Delusional.
Your favorite local restaurant, where will you be going downtown this weekend when you return?
It's not a restaurant, but I definitely go to McClanahan's because when I was in undergrad, it was obviously right across the street. I lived at Schreyer's, and they would have these amazing chocolate chip cookies there, and they would have these yogurt parfaits. Sounds really boring, but I promise they were incredible for study snacks. And so my friend and she's coming up with me. We already said that we have to go find these snacks. So
this is going to be a great reunion weekend for the two of you.
Yeah, we're a lot of eating, it sounds like.
I mean, that's part of the experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And last but not least, who would be your dream Penn State dinner guest?
Oh,
this one stumps people. We probably should have warned you with it.
Oh no, I don't know. This is hard. I might say, so I had the opportunity to get to know the Hintzes because I was part of the Presidential Leadership Academy. And so I actually haven't seen them since I was an undergrad, but I always loved, we would go to dinners with them, and they just felt like the grandparents, I would say, when we were in college. And so, I would definitely want to eat dinner again with them because it was just wonderful memories. So I'd love to do that.
We love that, especially coming from the Hints building right now.
Oh, okay. That's even better. That's where you are. That's funny. I didn't even know that. So that wasn't even on purpose.
This was not a plug. Everybody.
This was not plotted.
All right, Victoria. Well, that is all of the questions I have today. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your award. We're so excited to welcome you back this weekend.
Thank you. I'm excited to be there.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. Thank you, Victoria, for joining us today and sharing the amazing things that she's doing with adaptive sports medicine. And congratulations on her award this weekend. We are excited for her to come back to campus. For everyone watching and listening, we hope you'll join us next time. Find us where you get your podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Special thanks to our guest relations coordinator, Abrielle Clark, and producer Vincent Longaro for their work on this episode. We are